Right now, you probably have a tiny plastic lighter sitting on your clean kitchen counter. Or maybe a box of simple wooden matches tucked away in a cabinet drawer. You flick your thumb, a bright spark ignites, and a steady flame instantly appears. You light a candle or turn on your stove without a single second thought. It feels completely normal, but here is the truly strange part of our history. For the vast majority of human existence, you could not just create new fire. If your fire went out, you had to wait for a literal act of God. You waited for a terrifying bolt of lightning or a raging summer wildfire to strike. Then, humans desperately tried to keep those glowing coals alive for months or generations. Before this became ordinary, humanity lived in absolute, paralyzing terror of the pitch-black dark. We spent our nights running away from massive apex predators hidden in the shadows. Ancient tribes treated a pile of smoking embers like the most fragile treasure on Earth. So how did we actually transition from terrified scavengers into absolute masters of the flame? And why, despite modern science, are we still not entirely sure how it happened? To understand that, we must travel back to a freezing cold, pitch-black world. Long before rubbing sticks together, our ancient ancestors encountered fire purely as a dangerous enemy. Imagine walking through a dry, ancient savanna right after a violent, dark thunderstorm. A massive bolt of lightning suddenly strikes a tree, causing a huge explosion of heat. A roaring wall of bright blinding light quickly spreads completely across the wild landscape. Every single wild animal in the entire area runs away in absolute, pure panic. But ancient humans did something incredibly weird. Instead of running away into the darkness, we stood our ground and patiently waited for the raging flames to calm down. Slowly, our ancestors crept closer to the smoking wood with curious, wide eyes. We suddenly realized this terrifying force produced warm air and kept scary predators away. It also made strange, delicious smells out of the animals trapped inside the blaze. So, with extreme bravery, our ancient ancestors decided to completely steal the fire. We grabbed a brightly burning branch and carefully carried it back to our cave. We quickly realized we had just inherited the most demanding chore in human history. Because back then, ancient humans did not actually know how to make fire themselves. We only knew how to keep the fire alive by constantly feeding it leaves. If that precious flame died, it was completely gone and you were helpless. You could not just strike another match to fix your terrible, cold mistake. You were trapped back in the freezing cold dark until the next lightning strike. Think about the sheer, constant anxiety of living that kind of vulnerable existence. Ancient tribes had to appoint dedicated high-stakes guardians to watch over the flame. These individuals were essentially the world's very first professional, full-time fire babysitters. If you accidentally fell asleep on your watch, the embers turned to cold gray ash. You were effectively sentencing your entire immediate family to starvation or terrible hypothermia. Communities carefully carried glowing hot coals inside hollowed-out animal horns or clay pots. They wrapped the containers tightly in damp green moss whenever the tribe traveled anywhere. They dragged their stolen fire across vast continents, desperately feeding it tiny dry twigs. This brings us directly to the ultimate, mind-bending scientific mystery of human history. It is the big reason why modern researchers are still arguing in laboratory hallways. Why are we still not entirely sure when humanity actually mastered this powerful force? Well, the fundamental problem is that fire is an absolutely terrible historic preservationist. Unlike ancient humans, a flame does not leave behind solid bones or stone tools. Light white ash easily washes away completely in the heavy prehistoric seasonal rain. Black charcoal quickly crumbles into invisible dust over hundreds of thousands of years. When a modern archaeologist digs up a million-year-old cave, they find tiny traces. Microscopic traces of burned would instantly cause a massive scientific debate to break out. Did an ancient human deliberately light a cozy campfire inside that deep cave? Or did a natural forest fire simply sweep randomly through the open cave entrance? Because of this missing evidence, we are trapped in a giant historical guessing game. But then, everything completely changed for humanity with a brilliant physical breakthrough. Eventually, someone got tired of babysitting embers and noticed a fundamental physics law. They pressed a pointed wooden stick down firmly into a flat piece of timber. They spun it rapidly between their palms as fast as humanly possible. The intense physical friction generates concentrated heat at the point of contact. The hot wood fibers slowly turn into a very fine, dark wood powder. You keep drilling until your hands are severely blistered and your muscles scream. That dark powder will eventually begin to give off a thin trail of smoke. You carefully drop a glowing hot ember directly into a nest of dry grass. You blow on it very gently, and suddenly you have created fire from scratch. It sounds incredibly romantic, but in reality, the hand drill was a total nightmare. It required immense raw physical strength, perfect coordination, and the right dry weather. If the air was too humid, or if the wood was slightly damp, you failed. You could drill until your hands literally bled, getting nothing but a cold stick. So, ancient humans did exactly what our clever species always does best. We engineered a much better tool and proudly invented the ingenious bow drill. We wrapped a strong leather cord tightly around the vertical wooden stick. We used a flexible wooden bow to saw rapidly back and forth rhythmically. This simple action instantly multiplied our mechanical advantage over the stubborn wood. Suddenly, creating fire did not take an hour of agonizing, painful palm friction. Instead, it took a few easy minutes to summon a beautiful hot flame. Here is the exact point that makes this mundane history so incredibly important. Fire was not just a convenient tool for staying warm in dark caves. It did something far more profound. It literally re-engineered our internal human biology. Before we cooked food, early hominids spent 6 hours a day chewing plants. Because of this raw diet, our prehistoric jaws were comically massive and heavy. Our primitive digestive tracts were huge, while our brains remained relatively small. But when we introduced raw meat to a controlled camp flame, heat helped us. The fire did the heavy biological lifting of digestion completely for our bodies. It broke down complex proteins and instantly neutralized thousands of deadly food bacteria. This simple chemical change unlocked a massive wave of easily accessible, rich calories. Think about that mind-blowing fact for a quiet second during your day. We effectively outsourced our internal digestion to an external, controlled chemical reaction. Because we did not need to chew tough raw meat all day, everything changed. Our heavy ape-like jaws shrank significantly, and our massive digestive systems compacted tightly. All of that extra metabolic energy was suddenly redirected straight to our growing heads. Humanity literally ate our way to a much bigger, more complex brain. Fire did not just change human culture, it created the modern human mind. The control of flame was a total, absolute, evolutionary cheat code for us. As human societies grew out of the Stone Age, friction changed to percussion. We discovered that grinding wood was not the only way to summon flame. If you walk along an ancient riverbank, you strike flint against iron pyrite. This metallic mineral is often popularly known to modern miners as fool's gold. Striking them together forces a bright, hot orange spark to fly off dynamically. If that spark lands on highly flammable charred linen or fungus, it catches. The ancient Romans fully mastered this technique to make their daily military fires. Roman legions carried small personal strikolite kits containing flint, pyrite, and dry tinder. For many long centuries across Europe, this system was the absolute gold standard. Flint and steel quickly became the ultimate, high-utility pocket technology of the era. It was incredibly reliable. It worked perfectly in the pouring, freezing cold rain. It did not require you to furiously saw wooden sticks together until exhaustion. Yeah, I think I will stick to modern lighters, thank you. Yet, even with flint and steel, the daily fire process was very slow. Starting a stove remained a tedious, frustratingly delicate multi-step historical household chore. You had to strike the perfect spark and catch it in flammable tinder. You blew on it gently, then transferred the flame to a wooden log. The entire process took immense artistic patience and highly practiced survival skill. It was not until the 19th century that scientists finally gave us convenience. Brilliant chemical minds combined instant gratification with the ancient, dangerous element of fire. Inventors started coating the tips of wooden splints with phosphorus and smelly sulfur. This dangerous compound created the very first commercial friction matches sold to families. Suddenly, a single quick swipe against a rough surface produced a self-sustaining flame. To the average 19th century person, this daily action felt like absolute real magic. It was so fast and effortless that it completely rewrote our relationship. Fire was finally tamed, safely packaged, and sold cheaply in little cardboard boxes. So here is the full, incredible picture of our long journey with fire. First, our ancestors ran from terrifying forest fires before bravely scavenging the flames. Then, we spent thousands of years as anxious, stressed-out daytime fire babysitters. Next, we blistered our bare hands using primitive, painful wooden friction drills. We unlocked the stealthy secret of striking hot sparks from flint and steel. Finally, modern chemistry packaged the entire history of human evolution into matches. We put it into a tiny, cheap, highly convenient disposable plastic pocket lighter. The next time you pull a plastic lighter out of your deep pocket, or strike a match to light a simple candle on your table, look very closely at that tiny, quiet flame dancing on the wood. You are holding the exact same powerful force that terrified giant ancient predators. It rewired the biology of our ancestors and dragged humanity out of darkness. We might still argue over the exact date it started in a cave. But one beautiful thing about our long evolutionary history is absolutely certain. We did not just learn to safely control the dangerous element of fire. Controlled fire is the single primary reason we became advanced human beings. If you enjoyed exploring the hidden history behind ordinary everyday objects today, there are plenty more surprising, mind-blowing stories waiting to be uncovered soon. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the very next one.